Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into something pretty transformative. How AI is becoming this powerful new toolkit that could fundamentally change how we teach and learn reading. So let's get right into it.
But before we jump into the tech, just take a second and think about this question. For most of us, reading feels automatic, right? But underneath that simple feeling, your brain is running this incredible, super complex program. And, understanding that complexity is really the key to seeing how AI can make a genuine difference.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll peek inside the reading brain. Then, we'll see how AI can act like a personal coach. After that, we'll open up the toolkit, see how to put those tools to work, and finally, wrap it all up by designing an AI-powered lesson.
Okay, let's start by answering that first question. To really get why AI is such a big deal here, we've got to understand the amazing mechanics firing off in our brains every single time we read a sentence.
It's helpful to think of reading not as just one thing, but as this 5-part journey that happens in a flash. It all kicks off with decoding, literally turning those squiggles on a page into sounds. Then your brain zips to word recognition, spotting words it already knows. That's what allows for fluency, where you're reading smoothly enough that you're not just sounding out words, you're thinking about meaning. And that leads to the ultimate goals: comprehension, actually getting it, and vocabulary, picking up new words as you go.
Now, that very first step, decoding, it all hinges on something called phonemic awareness. Honestly, it's like learning the individual notes before you can even think about playing a song. It's hearing that the word cat is made of 3 separate sounds: k, a, t. Without that, the letters on a page are just, meaningless shapes. And then, way at the other end of the process, you have comprehension, which relies so much on syntax. This is kind of like the invisible architecture of language. Think about it. The dog chased the cat, and the cat chased the dog. Exact same words, but the syntax, the order, gives them 2 totally different meanings. It's the grammar that turns a word salad into an actual story.
So, okay, we've got this whole complex process down. Where does AI actually fit in all this? Well, the best way to think about it is this. AI isn't a replacement for a teacher. It's more like a tireless, perfectly patient personal reading coach that's there to support a learner every single step of the way.
And here is where it all just clicks. For every single one of those skills we just talked about, AI can step in with targeted support. So a student struggling with decoding, an AI tool can offer instant feedback on their pronunciation. Someone needs a little help with comprehension, it can ask questions that actually adapt, getting easier or harder depending on their answers. The support is never generic. It's always specific and right when it's needed most. And all of this leads to some huge benefits. With AI, you can get personalized texts that a student will actually be interested in. It offers interactive practice that is way more engaging than a boring worksheet. And maybe the biggest one of all, real-time feedback. Learners know right away what to work on. It really just transforms the whole experience from a one-size-fits-all chore into something personal and responsive. All right, enough theory. Let's get our hands dirty. It's time to open up this AI toolkit and meet some of the digital assistants that can help teach reading. Here are 4 fantastic examples we're going to look at. We've got Read Theory, which is all about adapting to the user; Common Lit, which has a massive library; Rewardify for breaking down tricky texts; and Quillions, which can whip up a quiz from just about anything. Let's take a closer look at what makes each one so cool. First up, Read Theory. Its superpower is being adaptive. Imagine a tool that senses when a student is getting frustrated and dials the difficulty down a bit, or when they're breezing through and bumps it up. That's what it does. It keeps every single learner in that perfect zone where they're challenged, but not totally overwhelmed. Next, let's talk about Common Lit. This isn't just a library. It's like a library with a super smart AI librarian. It doesn't just have thousands of texts. It actively suggests the perfect article or story for a student based on their reading level and their interests, whether they're into dinosaurs or deep space.
Ever hit a wall with a really dense, complicated text? Yeah, we've all been there. That's exactly where Rewordify becomes your best friend. You can paste in a tough article and bam, it instantly simplifies the language and defines difficult words. All of a sudden, a really challenging text becomes accessible to a much wider audience.
And last but not least in our toolkit is Quillions. For any teachers out there, this one is an absolute game changer. Instead of spending hours writing up comprehension questions, you can just give it a text. A news story, a chapter from a novel, anything, and its AI will generate really thoughtful questions to check for understanding. It's basically a teaching assistant on demand.
Okay, so we've met the tools, they're powerful, they're cool, but a tool is only as good as how you use it, right? So let's bridge that gap from theory to practice and see what this actually looks like when you put it to work.
This quote really nails one of the biggest shits AI brings to the table: immediate feedback. The power of that instant loop. You try something, you get feedback, and you try again right away. I mean, you just can't overstate how important that is. It's a huge accelerator for learning.
Let's make this super concrete with read theory. So, a student signs up, they take a quick little assessment to find their starting point, and they dive into reading. But here's the magic part. Right after they answer a question, they don't have to wait for a grade. They get instant feedback that explains why an answer was right or wrong. That immediate insight is what really builds skill over time. And that brings us to our final, and I think, most important section. Now that you get the process and you've met the tools, how do you become the architect of your own AI-powered reading lesson? It's time to build the blueprint.
So here's a little challenge for you to take away from this. Just think about how you could design a lesson that combines the strengths of these different tools. For instance, maybe you use Common Lit to find that perfect, engaging text, and then you use Quillions to build a quick comprehension check for it. And this checklist right here, this is your guide. It all starts with really clear objectives. What do you want students to be able to do? Then you think about your students, choose the right AI tools for the job, map out the activities, and figure out how you're going to see what they've learned in the end.
So, if we boil it all down, what have we learned? Well, first, that reading is way more complex than it looks. Second, that AI can provide really smart support for every step of that process. And with these incredible tools at our fingertips, the real power is now in our hands to design some truly amazing and personalized learning experiences. And if you're wondering, okay, but where does this really move the needle? Well, here it is. That real-time feedback and personalized practice, those aren't just neat features. They are absolute game changers. They are what drive this huge boost in student engagement because learning suddenly feels personal, responsive, and honestly, rewarding.
You know, everything we've talked about today is really just the beginning. As these tools get smarter, more intuitive, and more integrated into classrooms, we're left with this huge, exciting question to think about. How will AI truly reshape the future of learning to read? Thanks so much for joining me.